If they do that, the Cougars will be very, 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 very tough to beat.
Off the window, no. Roberts tried to get it. Shed for the win. Got it.
Just with 14 points, but you just look, the way that he dominated the game was in controlling the pace and making smart decision after decision.
Coleman by Slamma Jam.
Go to pizza spot before or after.
The dream is alive for Houston. Go Cougs. Let's go.
Welcome into another episode of Let's Rage Coogs live from Las Vegas, Nevada, Allegiant Stadium at Big 12 Football Media Days. This is Let's Rage Coogs presented by the Saxenian Family. Of course, we like to start off by saying thank you to Steve Saxenian for being a primary sponsor of these past two shows here from Big 12 Football Media Days. On this Wednesday, July 10th, it was time for the Houston Cougars to take the stage, and they did just that. Just about over 3 p.m. Central Time, Willie Fritz took the stage. Chris and I got a chance to speak with multiple players earlier this morning. So we have a lot of videos, a lot of clips to get into. But, of course, joining me, as always, Kris Gardner with the Houston Round Ball Review and Da'Yon Dunlap. How are y'all doing?
Doing great, man.
I'm doing great, man. I was able to watch the entire thing, but didn't get the behind the access like you guys did. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's get into it. Chris, let's start off with, where do you want to start off? I think we got to start off with Willie Fritz, but there's a lot of different avenues we can take this because we spoke, like I mentioned, to several players before in the morning, really before all the media day availabilities and activities began, and they spoke very highly, multiple, not just one, all those players that we spoke to spoke very highly of Willie Fritz, not only as a football coach, Chris and Da'Yon, but specifically just as a person and how he's pushing the entire team to excel and start thinking beyond football and excel in the classroom and in other aspects of life. The motto that I believe it was Tank Jenkins that told us that Willie Fritz has been really made it a point of emphasis over the spring in his time with Houston, going 1-0, not just on the football field, but in life. And that goes into succeeding in academics and just being a nice person overall as a human being.
And another thing that I liked to hear from the players is they get a kick out of seeing Coach Fritz participate with them in some of the drills. and like Tank said, I mean, Donovan kind of laughed at it too, but Donovan is impressed by Coach Fritz's energy. He still is tremendous energy for his age. No, period. Not just for his age. Anybody. He is an energetic guy, and he participates in the drills. He wants to keep up. Tank kind of joked with him, said, sometimes we're like, Coach, just give it a rest, Coach. We got this, But he enjoys Coach being part of the team in that aspect. That, as well as there is life after football. And he wants these young men to become well-rounded individuals and not just football players. So get it done on the field and off the field. So that was also impressive. Good to hear.
Speaking of energy, on his interview during the ESPNU broadcast, they asked him, did he get in the three-point stance? He looked around like, if we had enough space, I'll show you right now. And that just showed his intensity, and I love to see that. But to the other aspect for everything else I heard, it sounds like he's more personable, and he cares about the players. Because what is it, 1%? I'm not sure the percent of players that's going to make it to the NFL.
Yeah, one or two, yeah.
1 or 2%. And so letting these young men that you not only know, but not only know, but you care about life after football. And like Tank Jenkins said in the clip that we posted on the Twitter, like coaches are walking in the rain through the snow to actually make sure you show up to class. And that starts from accountability, not only leads off the field, but on the field. And so that's how you build a culture right there. I love everything I heard from Coach Fritz, his leadership, and his entire staff on how they're approaching things and changing the culture around the football program.
And he repeated on the stage what he said, I think, throughout his whole process when he became head coach. The quote is, every kid that we recruit have to be drivable distance for them. So that's why focus on the Houston area, Texas, state of Texas, and Louisiana, and you're seeing the results of that. A lot of the verbal commitment so far from the class 25 or Texas, Houston area, or Louisiana. So he He is walking that walk and backing up that talk. So it's great to see. I'm looking forward to it, man. The players are excited, and the vibe is different. The positivity around the program is there. So now the players have to get it done on the field, but fans have to do their part as well. Show up to the games.
And let's play that clip that Da'Yon mentioned, because it all ties in together, in my opinion, when it comes to recruiting and really the success that they've had just in the few short months that Willie Fritz has been at the helm for the University of Houston Cougars. But before we play that clip, obviously at the top of the show, we said thank you to Steve Saxenian. He's the primary sponsor for today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs. These past 2 episodes of Let's Rage Coogs here in Las Vegas at Big 12 Media Days. But of course, we also like to say thank you to our 2 other sponsors for today's episode, beginning with Star Pizza. With 3 locations across the Houston area, Star Pizza is your go-to stop before or after the game, or I guess in this case, before or after football media days. If there's a Star Pizza in Las Vegas, we might stop at one of their locations. And of course, we want to highlight with 713 Day coming this Saturday in Houston. They're going to have various $7.13 specials across Star Pizza. And of course, now they have expanded their all-day buffet from just Tuesday to now. It is Tuesday and Friday, so be sure to stop by any one of their 3 Star Pizza locations on a Tuesday or Friday during lunchtime for an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet. And of course, we also like to say thank you to BB's Tex Orleans Cooking. Be sure to follow them on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and X at BB's Tex Orleans. That's at BB's Tex Orleans. Of course, with 14 different locations across the Houston area, BB's Tex Orleans is here to help you make your boil at any one of their participating locations. And with that being said, let's hear what Tank Jenkins had to say. Mentioned that story about a staff waiting for him outside the classroom on a rainy day, and that's really when he kind of noticed a change in the coaching staff. The real deal about not just really caring about football.
He's the type of the person he want everything out of you. Not even like football. He's just like life. He don't even, to be honest, he don't really care about how football is and anything. He care about you in the classroom, how you grades and stuff, because he don't want us to have bad grades. He want us thinking about stuff after football, because football always got to end one day. So he's just a coach that came in and just showed us it's more than football. And that's what we have to see, it's more than football. And he brought that in, and he showed us he came in with his culture is a more family culture.
Jamal mentioned that. How much of a factor do you think that was in terms? I think you guys had the highest GPA this spring of the team. How much of that message was a factor?
It was good because we all were everybody don't nobody miss anything, miss classes or anything. Coach Fritz, some days Coach Fritz probably meet you at your class and you'll be whoa. But yeah, it's we take everything with school and everything serious now. Everybody on one accord, everybody want to have straight A's now. So that's good. Coach Fritz, he put it he branded it in our hearts that you want to do better. So everybody's doing better. So and that's good, and it's showing.
Has Fritz ever met you outside of one of your classes?
No. Coach Shane did. Shane meet me. But no.
Did they catch you off guard?
Oh, no, he didn't catch me off guard. Well, yeah, it did, because one day it was raining real hard, and he still was right there checking class. So I was oh, yeah, it's serious here. It's serious. That's what, that was back in February. That's when I knew, the coaches care more, because they're, they walked in the rain to come check to make sure you're in class. That's real big.
So right there on that clip from Tank Jenkins, he said it's much more of a family culture. And like I mentioned before we played that clip, I think that just completely ties everything together when it comes to the success that we have seen from the Houston Cougars in recruiting just in these short few months. I think last time I checked, according to 247 Sports UH, I was most definitely in the top 5 when it came to Big 12 recruiting for the class of 2025, which night and day difference from the previous head coaches and just the bottom of the barrel rankings that they had when it came to recruiting. Honestly, not even just in the Big 12, but nationally. And I think hearing that Tank Jenkins right there talk about that family atmosphere, that culture, and to me, speaking on the players, it seems like they are invested in Fritz, and they believe that the entire coaching staff believes in them as human beings, and they want them to thrive and succeed, like we mentioned, beyond the gridiron. And I think that's a huge selling point when it comes to these recruits, and specifically if they're around the Houston area. Willie Fritz, when he spoke on the stage, said they're going to make it a point of emphasis of recruiting not just in the city of Houston, but around Texas and even into Louisiana. He said he has not gotten on a plane once when it comes to recruiting. Everything has been driving distance. And so far, a lot of success for Fritz.
And I think in regards to recruiting, thinking about that, think about talking to parents, and you hear a player on the current team saying the accountability that they have and the care, the family atmosphere that they care about you off the field. And we just talked about the percentage of players that make it pro. As a parent, I would feel confident and comfortable sending my child to a college like that. And then Coach Fritz talks about the number of coaches who have Texas high school football experience. So all in all, the culture, the family atmosphere that they're building with the caring of players and helping them be prepared for life after football, as well as Coach Fritz talked about the players that he was able to help get to the next level at Tulane. None of them were 4 or 5 star players. 1 or 2 4-star, and they had 1 or 2 Power 5 within Power 5 recruits. So being able to develop not only character but young men and being assets to society. I mean, I love everything I heard from Coach Fritz, man. I'm definitely bought in, and I think it's big. I think it's only going to get better, especially when they start stacking up those wins. Houston can really, really, really be a powerhouse.
And you're seeing the connections that Coach Fritz has in the state and Louisiana, and the respect he has from the coaches, and that all is starting to bear fruit with the commitments that the program is getting, and it's only going to get better because you add the talent, the accountability, the closeness, the proximity, the conference, and then when the wins start coming too, it's a bright future for Houston Cougar football, man. I'm looking forward to it.
On the topic of recruiting, like we mentioned, really the level of success that we've seen with this Houston Cougars program under Fritz over the course of the last few months. But Willie Fritz himself also spoke very highly of what he has seen from the University of Houston in that short amount of time. He's really high on the vision, and in particular spoke highly of the facilities that the Cougars have, especially ones like we've mentioned in previous shows in the past. Even just yesterday, we talked about that football operations center that needs to get done. And like we learned, like Joseph Duarte mentioned yesterday, the level of investment that the University of Houston has put to athletics has put them in a lot of debt, but that it's not for the lack of not trying when it comes to those facilities. So, Chris, to steal the phrase that you just said, hopefully it's something that once that facility is complete, which Chris said within the next 9 to 10 months, is going to be something that they can start see more fruit to come out from that labor that they've put in. But I want to
real quick, Andy, because it all ties what you were just talking about. I got an update. Joseph mentioned it as well, to me, that there was not damage to the football ops center. He got that confirmation this morning. So the stadium did not have any damage. There was some damage to, I think, baseball, nothing major, but nothing besides fallen trees, things like that. But as far as the football stadium itself, no damage to it.
Great update right there, obviously, when it comes to the effects of Hurricane Beryl. I want to play this, 2 clips back-to-back. They tie in together. One, here's Willie Fritz. He's speaking highly of the University of Houston, and he mentions what the men's basketball team has been able to establish over at the Fertitta Center.
Long coaching journey in a lot of different places. How has that prepared you for, being at Houston in a Power 5 conference?
You learn something every step along the way, and but you got to approach each school you go to differently, and accent their strengths and try to find out what the weaknesses are and change those weaknesses. But I've just been so impressed with the University of Houston and what they've done with the school. I mentioned it, Tier 1 academic institution. I think 20 years ago, Houston might have had 500 people living on campus. We got over 8,000 students living on campus now. And you've seen what Coach Sampson did with the men's basketball program. So they've shown that you can get it done at the highest level at the University of Houston.
And we're going to play this clip back to back as well. Like I said, it ties in with the comments we just heard from Willie Fritz.
I know China football hasn't even been played yet, but as being a power conference coach, has that been any different or what you expected?
Oh, I don't know how different it is, but it was one of my goals. I wanted to coach at the highest level of collegiate football. That's why I took this job.
Does it get you in more living rooms?
Yeah, I really feel like, when we finish our football operations center, which is going to be in the next 9 or 10 months, we'll have the best facilities, I think in the state of Texas. I really do. 161,000 square feet, $161 million. So it's going to be outstanding. We got a great indoor. We got a great outdoor practice fields, great stadium. I think the one thing that Houston was lacking was the league, and that was what, kept them from getting some of the players that they should have gotten, possibly. And I also think kids are happier being a little closer to home. Our footprint's going to be, extended from the Houston metropolitan area.
Once again, that was Houston Cougars head coach Willie Fritz talking on a lot of different aspects. Like I said, it kind of ties in with the recruiting component, but he himself is very high on the facilities that the University of Houston is going to have within the next year or so.
Yeah, and I want to answer this. Put it up, because Dan, I'm not sure if you can see it.
Yeah, I see it. Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. It's money, and I'm not hating on SMU, but SMU is a member now of a dying conference in the ACC, a conference that is going to go on drastic changes when Florida State and Clemson and possibly North Carolina leave. Heck, SMU might run that conference in a few years when those three powers leave. But it's money driven. It's good for them. But if the Big 12 does what Brett Yormark said yesterday and maintains and believes that they are now the third power conference, I'm not worried about SMU. And UH people shouldn't be either. Currently, based on those quote-unquote recruiting rankings, SMU is ranked ahead of Texas. How long is that going to last? Let's be real, okay? SMU, good for them. They don't have what options they have left. They're not going to get any media rights deals for nine years. They bought their way into a conference, and that conference is on its last legs. So good for them, and good luck to them.
I think that also ties back into our conversation yesterday. I forgot the team that we were referencing, but Joseph referencing how they took the best deal to get in the best conference at that time. I think that kind of implies for SMU too. It's good for them to get out of the AAC and get to the ACC, regardless if it implodes or not. In my opinion, I think it's still best for them. But like everything Chris said, I agree wholeheartedly. The money, I forgot that they raised over $100 million in a short amount of time, and I think it's all money. In a week, yeah. So it's definitely money driven, but Houston can get there. Just keep doing it the right way and building relationships. Just think when Houston now can back everything they're doing now with the money. Oh man, it's only going to get better with the wins. And so I'm not worried one bit, and I don't even like to compare. But like Chris said,
right?
Props to SMU, they're doing it, but Houston is going to be right there and even better once it all unfolds. Because I have full trust in Coach Fritz. And just to kind of get back to some of his comments and what we just mentioned, I think that footprint and Andre Ware talked about it too, and he mentioned the good of a job that that Herman did, which keeping Texas kids, primarily Houston kids, in Houston. And he said really Fritz has done an outstanding job of that I don't want to say following that blueprint, but realize the importance of keeping kids home in Houston because the talent is there. And I think with Houston continuing doing that, building relationships that he has, like I just said, once the money now becomes available and they have that as another resource, Houston has a potential to be, oh man, they could be big. They could be big and they could be consistently a power, especially in the Big 12.
And
Willie Fritz called Houston.
Real quick, let me say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Coach Fritz is the coach the fans wanted. Coach Fritz has shown so far that he is keeping the local talents, top talent, committed to Houston. He's doing his part. Houston is now in a power conference. So he's doing all these things that fans wanted. So I'm going to put it back at the feet of our fellow alums. All these things are taking place. So now it's up to us to do our part as well. We're getting the coach. We're getting the talent. You said for a while, a lot of folks said, well, why are all these local kids going elsewhere? Well, local kids starting to stay. So we're running out of reasons to not support the football program. Okay, so I'm challenging all of us to support the football program. And clearly, I'm not talking about the ones who have done it for years. I'm talking about the ones who stayed on the sidelines for years and kept saying, well, they don't do this. We're not that. What else is there for you to say now? We got the football coach. We got the ops coming up. We're in a power conference. Top talent staying, going to Houston now. What else do you have? Let's support our alma mater.
Excuses are becoming limitless now. You can't, no many excuses to lean on. Then once where they have that new AD, that's going to be another check mark. I got faith that they're going to do the right thing that way. And so I second everything Kris just said.
Well, that's a perfect segue, Da'Yon, because I asked head coach Willie Fritz what, for him, are the characteristics of a good athletic director. And in the short clip, here's what he had to say about what he feels are the top two characteristics of a good athletic director.
Oh, I think there's a lot of different things. You know, they talk about two things. You know, hiring coaches, that's one, and raising money, that's two. In this day and age, it might be the opposite. It might be raising money one, hiring coaches two. But you know, I've worked for a lot of different ADs, and all of them have been great in their own right. You know, so there's a lot of characteristics you're looking for in an AD.
And it really ties in with everything that we've just talked about. But similar to what Kelvin Sampson mentioned about hiring coaches, but at this day and age, to be a good athletic director, you have to be able to raise money for the program. And yeah, we just mentioned it when we alluded to SMU and their recruiting rankings. But Kris, even Baylor head coach Dave Aranda talked about it when he was up here on the stage about NIL and really how big of a factor it is when you mentioned it, like especially when you're talking about the top of the top 5-star recruits where they expect NIL.
Yep.
Like it's not NIL. No, it's like okay, what can you offer when it comes to NIL? And then it's going to be compared to other programs. It's just the way it is in college, in all of college sports, but obviously it's very much so in college football in this day and age.
You know, some schools have adapted to the importance of NIL quicker than others. I think UH is beginning to recognize how important it is. Coach Fritz and Coach Kelvin Sampson have made public statements about how important NIL is to a successful program now. Now, the alums have to understand that and accept it. You know, it's not going to change, whether you like it or not. It's here right now. So you can disagree with it. Coach Sampson has said it. Whether you like it, don't like it, it's reality. So that's going to be one of the next steps for Houston to keep these top-tier players that Coach Fritz does bring into the program and commit to the program, because at some point, the retention is going to be important, because there will be time. Heck, we know stories now where external programs have had more NIL money and lured UH players away to go play for them. Well, that's part of the reality that Houston is facing, and that's another aspect of what it's going to take to, once Coach Fritz gets the program there, to stay nationally relevant and competitive and to compete for Big 12 and ultimately, we think, a national championship.
And that's exactly where I was thinking too, Kris. Alums. You got like SMU, for example, and some of these other schools, alums. Oregon, for example, we put in our group chat, one of their famous alums, Phil Knight, unlimited NIL. And I think that's what it's going to take for Houston's alums, or whether it's the AD is going to help, the new AD, whoever that is, helps convince the alums to. And I think, listen, in my opinion, a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, some alums may be hesitant to the new age of having to play players and maybe in the older mindset of, well, they're students and not really be forward thinking and realize these young men not only deserve their money, but should have been paid, and just stuck in an old mind frame of not being willing to change in an essence of paying players. And I think where it's the AD, the coaches, or whatever the message that could be to kind of help some of the alums, whatever level, whatever they can contribute, just reach them and bring them in to get into the fold to help build that NIL. And I think Houston not only is behind the curve there, but I think, like I said a second ago, they can get there, and I have faith they will get there.
One of the other takeaways that I got from Willie Fritz as he spoke on the stage for Media Day, he talked about getting into specific players, but they asked him about Parker Jenkins specifically, and he spoke highly about Parker Jenkins. I mean, he said he can do about everything: run inside, run outside, can catch, can block. But what caught my eye on that question was how he continued to go in and talked more about the depth at the running back position. He said the first couple of weeks, first couple games of the season, he's going to play a lot of players. He's going to try to figure out his rotation, for the lack of a better phrase. And it's going to be an evaluating process. He's trying to see the talent that he has and who can be his consistent producers on the football field this season.
Yeah. Coach Fritz, he kind of added to that, he said he wants to see which players excel in 50 or 60 snaps, which players are more productive in 20 snaps or 30 snaps. So he's going to play more players early in the season, and that's part of evaluation. That's part of player development. That's part of learning your roster. And it's just another honest assessment of the football program, because this season, I think all of us, I think fans agree as well, this team will get better as the season progresses. And I don't want to compare, but how often did the previous regime, can we say that the team got better as the season progressed? We know in basketball, under Kelvin Sampson, coach has hammered it into all of us, media, fans, everybody. His goal is to be better from November compared to December compared to November, etc. But I believe we're going to see the same for Houston Cougars football. It's a team in September will be better than it was in August. October will be better than it was in September. November will be better than October. That's a positive to see. So he's going to play a lot of players early in the season to see who can handle the heavy load and who can't.
And I like that approach. I think you allow the performance of the player to determine who deserves playing time. You don't go in my opinion, with I think some players will earn in the spring or earn their starting roles, but in reference in some positions, you allow them in their production determines who gets the bulk of the snaps, who gets the bulk of the playing time. And I think that earns accountability and earns trust within players, like the work that I put in or the work that I put out on film. Shows that I should be on the field, and I think they'll be rewarded with that. So I think I definitely like that approach. And just looking at the running back depth, they have depth, and I think it's smart for running backs to not have. You look at the tops from Alabama, who's put out NFL running backs every year. They still have 3 to 4 backs that they rotate to keep them fresh and not put a lot of tread on the tires per se when they get to that next level. So I think that's important for Parker, Tony Matthew. You still got Snead. You got players with a lot of experience who can do different things, and I think that's only going to be to the betterment of the team.
You know, one of the biggest question marks for the team, this year's team, is the offensive line and the inexperience. Yeah. Tank Jenkins is the returning O-lineman. So the sooner the offensive line gels, that'll go a long way to running back production. Clearly, it'll go a long way to keeping Donovan Smith upright. And when your O-line, when you're good in the trenches, up front on both sides of the ball, you're going to win or give yourself a great chance to win a lot of games.
That was one of the things Donovan Smith said in his interview, in one of his interviews, and I'm sure we have the clip where one of the things that he wanted to work on in this offseason was his pocket presence, trusting his O-line and not escaping out of the pocket too soon or not staying too long in the pocket. So just overall, his pocket presence, trusting his offensive line, he referenced having a relationship with him, talking with them and what they're seeing, and being in unison with that and being calm in the pocket and making better reads, better throws, knowing when to extend the plays, and et cetera, et cetera.
And Donovan mentioned that he was at the Manning Passing Academy. And one thing he said to us that he learned from Eli and Peyton as quarterback, you have to be consistent every day. Your mechanics have to be the same. You have to be locked in, day out. You cannot have loose mechanics. You know, Eli and Peyton were not great athletes, but they made the throws nearly all the time because their mechanics were consistent every day. And that's one thing Donovan's going to focus on August.
I forgot what he said. I think he said that you consistently what you do or something like that towards the end, and that was a really good quote. I'm going to have to rewatch it again.
Yeah. He said, paraphrasing, it was something like what you do, anything you do, what you do any day, you need to do every day. That's what it was. Basically, what you consistently, whatever you do, anything you do, you should do everything that same way. So the clip is available. You saw my Twitter account as well and on YouTube, but you can check it out. So he seems to understand, QB is ahead of the offense. It starts with him. And if he's consistent every day, he's consistent, his mechanics, his production, his leadership, all those factors will go a long way to how successful this year's Cougs team will be.
I do want to bring up this quote from Coach Willie Fritz. It kind of ties in everything together, but direct quote that he said when he was up at the podium, but he says, we've got high expectations, just like all the coaches we've got up here. We want to win every one of these ball games that we play this season. That's going to be Donovan Smith is going to be a big key to the puzzle in terms of success of the Houston Cougars and how many games they do win this season. And we saw the preseason rankings, the poll. Houston picked 15th out of 16th when it came to that preseason poll by the Big 12 media that voted on it. Trust us, the players are very well aware of where they came out in that preseason poll. Obviously, it'd be a little bit of a motivating factor, but I think it was interesting. Jamal Morris is the one that had this comment, but he said, it is what it is. It's based on the production that they gave last season. He said they struggled a lot last season. He mentioned that one of the good things about the preseason poll is that they can do something about it. So obviously they're going to be highly motivated to steal from the West Virginia head coach last year when the preseason polls came out and West Virginia was picked to be last, and he made a point of emphasis that West Virginia would not finish last in the league. Maybe that's going to be something with Houston this season, which, to be honest, they're kind of playing with house money in terms of not a lot of expectations. Like, it's just a matter of going out there, new first year head coach, second year in a new league in the Big 12. And they're going to be motivated to prove and have much more success than they had a season ago.
Well, being picked 15th out of the 16 teams, the main reason is, as you said, new head coach, but the question marks, a lot of unknowns. Mm-hmm. I am certain. Do we have it in here now, the guarantee clip? This will be the last time the Houston Cougars under Willie Fritz will be picked this low in the preseason bowl. This will be the last time. Guarantee it. I guarantee they will not be picked 15th out of 16 under Coach Fritz after this season. Y'all agree?
Oh, yeah, no question.
100%.
I wholeheartedly agree. I don't think they'll finish that low. I really, really do not.
I don't either.
I do not think they'll finish that low. I think now with the questions of O-line, those are more of the question marks that I have, and that I'm wondering that I have to wait to see. But the skill positions from receivers to the running backs to even the tight end that we brought in from Michigan State, I think it's all there. And Donovan Smith, and so D-line still got a lot of good pieces. I expect a lot of good production from there. I think this team can sneak up on a lot of people, well coach and out strategize people, especially in the second half with coaching adjustments, and they can win some games that maybe looking at it now that you're like, I mean, I didn't expect them to win that game, but some of that we don't even know about other teams as well. So it's question marks all the way around. But I think I definitely agree with you, Chris. This is the last time they'll be picked this low, no question.
And I'm
look at how the season went last year.
Let me say
Sorry,
this, Andy,
Chris.
real quick. Oh, my fault.
No,
Let me say this real quick. Fans of Let's Rage Coogs know what I said about if it came down to coaching between Coach X or that other coach who's no longer here, I take Coach X. That ain't true anymore. Okay. More times than not, I'm taking Coach Fritz over whoever the other coach is. So that is a massive improvement right there. And the Cougs will be in games this season because of Coach Fritz. So that's a positive right there.
And they were in a lot of games last year in the first half. Exactly. Lack of coaching adjustment. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
There you go.
Both of y'all read my mind. Like at the end of the day, Houston they finished 4-8, but how many of those games came down to 1-2 possessions? Came down to the final possession. Da'Yon, you hit the nail right on the head. Second half adjustments where Houston looked good. They looked competitive in that first half, and then their opponents just made an adjustment. Houston wasn't able to keep up more often than not, and that was a big reason why they finished 4-8 and why the previous head coach is no longer here at the University of Houston.
Amen.
On the topic of Donovan Smith, real quickly before we kind of move on, but he did mention injury update. He said he's been cleared for the over 2 months now, close to 2 months. He mentioned so he should be good, ready to go. When it comes to training camp, and by the time week 1 rolls around, August 31st against UNLV at TDECU Stadium.
And he said he let a rip at the Manning Academy, tossing the ball 60, 65 yards. So I guess the shoulder is healed. The mobility is in the shoulder is good. So I'm looking forward to it.
Real quickly, let's kind of
we don't do this.
We haven't had a chance.
Yeah, we don't do
no.
that. Yeah,
it's way too hard, too early.
I just don't believe in it. Because what are we going to base it on? Whatever.
Right.
What I was going to say, look, we got a new graphic here on Let's Rage Coogs, and that is the Houston Cougars schedule. Like I said, they start off week 1 against UNLV, August 31st at TDECU Stadium, but there is the long list of opponents. 12, obviously, when you look at the headliners, top to bottom, week 2 at Oklahoma. It's been a couple seasons, handful of seasons since Houston played Oklahoma back in 2019, which ironically was the first, or coincidentally, I should say, was the first game ever for the previous head coach with the Houston Cougars. So it'll be the second game ever with U of H for Willie Fritz when they play the Sooners in week 2. Chris, Da'Yon, a rematch for the Bayou bucket that we know it did not go Cougars' way last season at Rice football stadium, and they're going to try to get some revenge against the Owls. But I think
they will get some revenge against the Owls. They will.
I think I think we can all agree on this. The toughest game of the season will be when they face Utah October 26th. Utah picked preseason to win the league. They're coming as a really strong team, and Houston's going to be tested in this schedule. They're going to play a lot of good opponents. I think when it's all said and done, they'll have played a handful of ranked opponents, which good for Houston. They're going to get an opportunity. They're going to get tested over the course of the season.
And let me say this from Rex, and shout out Rex for your comments and everything you're doing to add to the show. A lot of night games early in the season, which goes back to my challenge to alums. We know it's hot in Houston. Okay, we know that. But if the games are starting later, that's not going to be an issue. It won't be as hot with later starts. So that should erase another reason some of you have given for not attending the home games. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I think, like Andy said, if the Utah game would be tougher, also that second game at Oklahoma. I think that's another tough one. And then after that, getting Kansas State, right after Utah, 2 tough physical teams, I think That's one of another tough games. But I like that. I mean, with the Donovan Smith at the helm, I'm very confident in what he can do and how he can progress and get better. And I didn't realize he's only listed as a junior and has another year of eligibility at his disposal if he wants to use it.
I think there's going to be a lot of there are obviously a lot of excitement, but I think this season in particular, I mean, going back at it, is going to be kind of a year of first, and maybe not necessarily in the way that you traditionally think of that, but this is to go back to a comment you said, Chris. You think this is going to be the last season that Houston gets picked as lowly as they do in those preseason rankings. By the time we get to that final game of the season, way in the future, November 30th, against BYU, I think there's going to be a lot of stars that have been born for this Houston Cougars football program, and there's going to be a lot of optimism going forward, and hopefully that winning record that gets them bowl eligible. I think that's something that the Houston Cougars are striving for, and maybe they shock the entire conference and do much better than that. But there's just a lot of excitement. And Chris, we spoke to the players. They themselves individually, they feel it from the inside, all the excitement that the fans have. Just a breath of fresh air in terms of the change in the program. There's a lot of optimism, and it's not just kind of coach speak, for the lack of a better phrase. It's true, and everyone can feel it from who we talk to, from players to the coaches themselves. And obviously the fans have been a big component of it ever since Fritz was hired.
I saying this, I guess, obviously, because y'all know that I was very tough on the previous coach, but just listening to the players today, the vibe from them, they seemed much more positive about this season, about the future of the program. So you can say what you want. What did I say about the previous regime? I don't know, but they just seem much happier and more confident in themselves, in the staff, in the direction of the program. So those are all positives, I think, for Houston Cougar football going forward.
And I think in my opinion, it sounds like the accountability within the leadership has changed, and how there's a certain level of care from not only from football but outside of football, that you will hear from different position coaches or different other coordinators, but it's from now you hear it starts at the top with the head man. And I think that's a big difference that I hear and what I've noticed. And Andy, I agree with you. I think by middle of the season, end of the season, some stars will be born for Houston and a lot of optimism. I think one of them will be Stephon Johnson, Boogie Johnson. I think he puts flashes of what he could do, and I think him getting even more opportunities. He's shown he could be electric as a receiver, and I'm looking forward to him having a big breakout year, I think.
And I think it was Tank. Tank said that it was more of a family vibe. It wasn't, too many. It wasn't cliques anymore about this group over there. We're all brothers now. It's more of a family vibe on this year's squad under Coach Fritz and the staff. So, hey, I'm like, okay, that's great to hear.
Agreed, absolutely. Da'Yon, Chris, I'm gonna toss it back to you guys. Is there anything that stood out? Anything that might have stood out about either the Houston Cougars, maybe some of the other coaches or players that spoke at Media Day, as we start to wrap things up?
Yeah, as we wrap it up, as Andy and I get ready to go back to pick up our stuff and head to the airport, we had another example of Cougarnit, unfortunately. Before Coach Fritz, or before any of the coaches today and yesterday walked to the stage, the school mascot and the cheerleaders cheered for that particular school as the coach walked onto the stage. When Coach Fritz walked onto the stage, Shasta was nowhere around. The cheerleader was nowhere around. So there was no yelling of "Go Cougs," "Yeah Cougs," none of that for the cameras or nothing like that. It was just Coach Fritz walking onto the stage, and everybody knows the time the coach is going to talk. So I don't know what happened to our mascot or the cheerleader, the peps, whatever what is it called now? Pep squad,
They
pep
are here,
person,
by the
whatever.
they are here.
They're
They
here.
just weren't
They
they weren't
arrived
at the
after Coach
stage.
Fritz started talking. So they weren't there before, and I was just like, come on now. So I don't know what happened, but that was disappointing to me. So there we go.
I like a lot of what I've heard from Jamal Morris. I think he's taking the experiences up to date and looking at it in a positive light and how to get better, how to lead better, and how the overall the team can have success comparing to what they haven't had in previous years. So I really like what I've heard from him and Jamal, really from all the players that I heard from. Tank, I think they all seem to be bought in and have a good leader that can lead them to not only in life but in football with accountability versus the previous head man that was at the helm for Houston.
To add on to your comment, Dan, about Jamal Morris, definitely that's one of his big goals for this 2024 season. He said he wants to be a leader, and specifically, he wants to be a leader by example. He wants to kind of set the tone and really set the stage when it comes to that linebackers group and the team overall as a whole. He said that's something where Chris, to kind of go on to what you said earlier, and kind of we hear this often with the men's basketball program, but just speaking of the players today, it seems like they're taking a lot more ownership about this team, which hasn't always been the case.
And I mean, could it be as simple as saying the players seem to have more belief and confidence in the staff, in Coach Fritz and this staff regarding accountability, regarding the family vibe, the culture, everything like that? Could it be just that simple?
Looks like it so far. 4 game has been played.
Yeah, we'll see, because
sounds like
obviously injuries are a factor and everything like that. But the vibe is different. The positivity is there, and hopefully it'll continue in August and September, and as the team gets better throughout this season.
Real quickly before we sign off here from Las Vegas, again, I'd like to say thank you to the sponsors of today's show, beginning with Steve Saxenian, who was a primary sponsor of the past 2 shows here from Big 12 Media Days at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. So once again, a big shout out to Steve Saxenian for being the primary sponsor of these Let's Rage Coogs episodes. Of course, we also like to say thank you to our 2 other sponsors during today's show, beginning with BB's Tex Orleans. BB's has multiple locations throughout the Houston area, 14 locations to be exact, and they are all here to serve you. Build your boil with BB's today, and be sure to follow them on social media on Facebook, Instagram, or X at BB's Tex Orleans. And if you stop by any of these 2 restaurants, tell them that you heard about them on Let's Rage Coogs, because, hey, they're promoting and Coogs helping Coogs, so make sure that you stop by both of these locations and tell them that you heard about them here on Let's Rage Coogs. Of course, we also like to say thank you to Stars Pizza for being a sponsor on today's show as well. With 3 locations throughout the Houston area, Star Pizza is your go-to spot before or after the game. Be sure to check them out any day, Monday through Friday, from 4 to 6 p.m. for their happy hour. And of course, they've introduced the new thin and crispy 12-inch pizza for just $9, which I can personally attest to that one since I've tried it before. It's a really good pizza. And obviously, of course, be sure to stop by Tuesday and Friday at any one of the locations during lunchtime for an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet. And of course, like I mentioned again, Saturday, July 13th, 713 Day in Houston, they're going to have $7.13 specials at all of their locations. So be sure to stop by this coming Saturday. And like I mentioned, if you stop at either BB's or Star Pizza, tell them you heard about them on Let's Rage Coogs. That being said, Chris, I'll toss it over to you. Any final thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yes, thank you as always. Great job, Andy, producing the show. Let's Rage Coogs. Everybody remember this. Thank you, everybody, for watching and supporting us, and the comments and the questions. Keep this in mind. It won't change. Let's Rage Coogs is the original post-game show for Houston football and men's basketball. Help us. Let's really do a better job of Cougs helping Cougs. Let's make that a thing going forward for all of us, for each other, for you guys who watch the show. Help us, help the program, help this athletics. This is a sleeping giant. We've said that for years. It's
Mm-hmm.
time for that giant to wake up and really begin claiming what we believe Houston athletics belongs. And that's at the top of the Big 12 and ultimately competing for national championships in every sport that we participate in. Follow me, Houston Roundbar Review, on all the platforms. And until next time, we're going to get back to Houston. And hopefully we have power. Everybody take care. Oh, one more thing. Da'Yon loves it. I'm going to say it because it's my thing to say.
Oh, yeah.
Since 1994, the Houston Round Ball Review. Local name, global perspective.
Real quickly before you go, just Kris, you mentioned it. Let's Rage Coogs, the original postgame show and the only postgame show to ever be retweeted, reposted, whatever you say it, by men's basketball head coach Kelvin Sampson, like it says on the intro.
Most definitely. And same sentiments that both gentlemen just did. Shout out to all our sponsors. If you guys take a trip to any one of them, let them know that you heard about us on Let's Rage Coogs. We appreciate your support. And I like that's a new hashtag we might have to make, Coogs helping Coogs. Let's keep that a trend. It goes all the way to NIL, to us as sponsorships. Just keep this thing going. We appreciate everyone who took the time out during the day to stop in and watch us and retweet, comment. We appreciate all of it. Safe travels to you guys back home. Sad I couldn't be there, but I'm glad I'm living through you guys. Glad you made it there safe, and hopefully power and everything is good when you guys return back home to Houston. But I'm excited. Can't wait for the season. College football, please hurry up. But as always, go Cougs, baby.